Hi there, this is Doug with some pointers, tips, irritations, and such dealing with Eclipse product maintenance. Now, if your system is anything like the systems that I've worked with in my life, your product file is probably barely controlled chaos. And no one wants to put the time into fixing it. And anytime you change anything, you're going to piss off somebody. And well, that's the world such as it is. But having said that, it kind of has to be tackled, or else everything kind of falls apart towards the end. A cascade failure, if you could say. Everybody working with Eclipse has this weird compartmentalized thinking in their head that what they do only affects them. And that is never ever the case. As you know, every sales process, purchasing process, inventory process, or what have you, is a chain of events that several different people interact with during its completion. Think of a kitchen with too many cooks, if you will. Everyone has their own style, and there's no coordination. What you end up with is something inedible at the end. Not something you want to do if you want to run a profitable wholesaler. Anyway, it really doesn't matter how you go about creating the records as much as consistency means everything. If you're going to come up with a pattern, come up with a consistent pattern across things as best as you can manage. Of course, there's always going to be rule by exception. So in the systems that I set up, our consistent pattern here is to have usually the price line of the product, so that gives me some indication of the vendor. Some of the names get rather lengthy, so we only use the price line entry. In some cases there's old leftovers, like Leviton is referred to as Lev and Lutron's referred to as Lut. But it depends on your system, how it was set up. In the systems I've worked with, they use an awful lot of pattern holdover from the trade service catalog information. Anyway, so the standard convention that I tend to use is price line, catalog number, and the remaining characters for a brief description, which you usually have to abbreviate because by the time you're done with all that, you've only got like 15 or 20 characters. The reason why is really a holdover from using eTerm, where most of your searches and displays only were going to show you the first line of information in the description. That's less of an issue now with Solr, that tends to show you at least the first 2 or 3 lines in a lot of your stuff, so you can kind of get creative. But with simple commodity things, fittings, wire, that type of stuff, usually you can get away with all of that fitting in a 35-character line with some heavy abbreviations. With newer stuff like automation and lighting products, not so much. And so I'm rethinking in the world of Solr, perhaps rewriting the descriptions makes a lot more sense. For example, one of my least favorite lighting companies, Elite Lighting, not necessarily because of anything to do with their parts, but their part numbers, their catalog numbers, are nightmares. So here we have an example of the part number RL465-630L-DIMTR-120-40K-90 to MDM to blah 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 blah. And this is about an average length for Elite. So of course there's no way to write all that in one line. So perhaps it makes sense maybe to have a price line and a brief description, and then the catalog number on the second line, which should be able to be viewable in most of the Solr screens and still kind of gets you what you need and gets everything on the paperwork in some usable format. A food for thought. If anyone else out there has some better ideas on how to format them, descriptions, I'm all ears. But as I was saying, the most important thing is whatever you decide to do, be consistent with it, because it drives people crazy if you mix back and forth And some have price lines and some don't, and you go to do a search and you type in the price line and you don't get it right. It makes narrowing down the search when you're digging for things that much harder. Also, be very consistent with abbreviations. You're going to have to do abbreviations because some of these darn product descriptions could be 4 lines long if you use them from the vendor. But you want to use the abbreviations, but be consistent with them. I find it's useful to have an abbreviations chart because I don't always remember when I'm creating products to be consistent, and I might accidentally put in BL instead of BLU. And now that makes it harder for people to search because some records are BL and some are BLU, or you get the idea. So create a cheat table and then distribute the cheat table out to other people, so that'll help them search products with the abbreviations and make things that much easier. If there's some very useful words, but you've had to abbreviate them in the descriptions, well, then maybe putting them, like weatherproof, for instance, in the keyword field, or transformer, for instance, maybe will help a little bit to alleviate some pain. So some things to consider there. So back to our original relatively clean record here. This is clear, concise, short and sweet, very easy to read, and nowadays kind of a rarity. Anyway, price lines and buy lines should have the same naming conventions, making it that much easier. You should regularly, your purchasing department should regularly be going through products and making decisions if this is a stockable product or a non-stockable product, and to manage your inventory better. Index type, as we've mentioned before. If it's a product that it looks like it's not being sold anymore, but you're not sure, moving it to the secondary search list by changing it from primary to catalog might be a good way of making the searches shorter for the salespeople, making them easier to find things. Additional keywords is great. Unfortunately, this becomes a dumping ground and people type in all kinds of stuff, and then it breaks the whole advantage of the keywords, because if you have 500 products with a keyword of green thing, you didn't shorten your searches any. People like to put the substitution information in there, cross-reference information, because they're lazy, and that's not the best way to do it. The more kosher way of putting in substitutions or related products is to use, of course, the product relationship maintenance, have records for compatible products and link them together as substitutions. For a salesman, honestly, they don't give a shit. And sometimes the purchasing department gets incredibly lazy too, and they may have a generic fitting product that 5 different manufacturers make, and they buy a different one depending on what killer deal they get from one week to the next. And they like to do silly shit like they'll use one product record with the competitor's product information and send it out. Say, for instance, maybe Orbit or Panasonic would make a compatible product. So they'd send this damn thing out as a purchase order to Panasonic and have them figure out what the hell the compatible product is and send it back. What you've done is you've encouraged every possible mistake you possibly can. Did the vendor pick the right compatible product? No, good luck. The receiving end, when they get a receiver from Panasonic for a Brone item, that's going to derail things right there. How on earth are they going to know that this is a compatible thing? Is it put away as a Brone? Maybe you already have some Brone products on the shelf. What happens when you start doing your inventory cycle counts or your annual inventory, and you've got 3 of the Brones and 4 of the Panasonics, and you're selling them as the same thing? Do not create nightmares. It really only takes a few extra seconds to copy a record, make a new record with the new product information, and add the substitute. 30 seconds, 40 seconds, a minute time on the front end can save hours on the back end. I don't know how many times I've tried to explain this to people, and I think I must be making dog noises or something, because I just wah 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 and go on. I hope wherever you're working, that they'll listen to you more than they did me over the years. Because, I mean, multiple records for compatible products, different descriptions, keeping everything in its lane. Even if it's the same item, but maybe it comes in a 1-pack, 2-pack, and 4-pack, don't create one and then 4 different packages. If you got different UPCs and different packaging, those are multiple products. I mean, don't just look at it from a sales point of view. Look at it a maintenance and reconciliation from all of your office staff and your warehouse staff and your purchasing staff. Make their lives easier. No one wants to spend more time than they have to on this stuff. Making sure your unit of measure that sold per makes some sense. Don't get those mangled. And your buy and sell quantity numbers. I mean, for instance, THHN wire 14 gauge tends to come in a box of 4 500-foot spools. You spend the 12 seconds to put that information in the buy package information, and now you reduce the errors from the purchasing staff of trying to order an uneven quantity that's going to get kicked back and cause errors in the AP department when they try and reconcile the invoice. Simple things like that. If you have wire that you're buying it per 1,000-foot spool, but you're selling it per the foot, well, then make sure that you've adjusted these unit of measure defaults and your sell quantities appropriately. That little bit of extra maintenance on the front end saves hours, years worth of aggravation and frustration on the back end. Do it. Really, it doesn't take that much. The basic product information. You may be thinking to yourself, UPC codes, I don't need some damn UPC codes. It makes a big difference. At some point, you're going to want to automate, which, to reduce your head count or keep it managed and to increase your efficiency. If you've ever seen a picture of an Amazon warehouse, do you think that they don't use barcodes? You think they've just got ordinary people just wandering around with clipboards down a 250,000-foot warehouse trying to find out where things are with no bin locations and incorrect information? No. If you want to play big league, if you want to run efficiency, if you want to be able to give your customers the best price so you stay competitive, then you had better do everything possible to make sure everything flows, and that starts with accurate product information or accurate information in general. Even if you're not using a wireless warehouse product and you're not really making the best use of UPC codes, make sure they're in there. I mean, in this day and age, setting up a shipping station with a $50 UPC code scanner at the receiving dock and having that in, I mean, it can make the receiving so much quicker, so much more reliable, so you don't have to double, triple, and quadruple check things. The barcode takes away the ambiguity of, is it this product or is it that product? Use it. Under user-defined maintenance, make sure that when you're typing in everything else, you put in the accurate catalog number. Because odds are some wonk propeller head like me in the IT department that routinely has to run reports on products and things like that is going to use that catalog number field. May not come in all that important in sales order entry, or in the purchasing, looking at their receiver reports, but it's going to mean an awful lot to the poor guy that has to manage the bulk of data that's the database of the product files. So, put it in there. Literally not that hard. UPC code, you can have a barcode scanner right there at your desk and scan the damn barcode off the box. Bleep takes 2 seconds. Catalog number, I mean, what's that? 10 seconds. And life becomes easier for everybody. It should also be said that if you're going to be doing automated price updating, well, that program requires a UPC code in order to key on to update the price. If you have any product that doesn't have a UPC code, either assigned or from the vendor, then your price update is going to skip over that record, and you're going to have to remember to go do the price update manually on those. You don't want to do that 50 times out of 1,700 products or 100 times. It just makes things a mess. So put it in there. Now, cell group maintenance is a little abstract, but for this is usually something the purchasing department is going to have to do on a regular basis. Run reports, make sure your products are in the right selling groups, or else your pricing matrix is going to malfunction and you're going to be losing money and not realize it, or selling things too high and losing out on the market. So, cell group maintenance, important, guys. I cannot stress enough how important it is to be proactive on your price maintenance on these things. It's a lot of work. Vendors aren't particularly helpful in some cases in providing you timely information, but it's too easy for a junior salesman to go to sell this damn product. He's not going to call ahead every damn time with Brone to verify the pricing. They're going to do an oh shit and sell this thing at a 2017 purchase price, and they think they did well, and now they accidentally sold the thing at a loss and caused a whole chain reaction of mess on the back end as that tries to be walked back. So be proactive with your pricing. Find ways. You don't want to foul things up. And part of the ways of doing this, of course, is using a catalog service like IDW and the PDW product, and being able to use reference published pricing and formulas to at least get in the ballpark. So at least you're not selling things at a ridiculous loss. Try to keep it within a few percentage, because maintaining pricing, it's very involved. Especially if you expect your purchasing department to be maintaining all the product pricing one at a time on a case-per-case, sales order by sales order basis. They will hate life, they will hate you if you make them do that. Over the years, e-commerce has become particularly important for a lot of wholesalers, and I have a variety of opinions on it and mixed results. For the most part, it seems most traditional wholesalers, they might be good at being regular brick and mortar wholesalers and outlets, but when it comes to e-commerce, trying to mix the two different mindsets does not work. But be that as it may, if you've decided that you want to do e-commerce, one of the big problems that you have with almost immediately with your e-commerce site is taxonomy, the grouping of the products, so that they're more searchable and organizable in your e-commerce platform. Back in the day, Trade Service used to use these commodity codes. I think IDW still has that. And that's a way of using a numerical code sequence to be able to group parts and products into similar batches. If you're getting catalog information, then using a commodity code thing from your catalog, probably very good idea. Over the years, it may have become polluted. There's nothing that says that you can't come up with your own commodity codes and apply those, and having a simple number, or since these are text fields, both product select code and commodity code, you could use text and put your taxonomy into it, and that's just going to make e-commerce that much easier as you go forward, because you will have put the taxonomy into Eclipse. You can run a report, and now it makes throwing up the e-commerce site that much easier. So keep it in mind. Not immediately useful, but it can be useful if used properly. Some other considerations to make is also there's the description, which makes it the simplest for a salesman. The description that might be an industry standard, the shortcut keywords that within the company they have their own little ways of referencing a particular part, and information that's helpful for the guys in the warehouse doing receiving and put away and picking that have some indication of what the hell the box is labeled matches something that's on the record or the sheet of paper in their hands. Each one of these has a different set of demands. So here, for example, we have a generic item which makes perfect sense to me after 18 years, but makes a lot of people's hair catch on fire. Wire, copper, stranded, NMB, 6.2 with ground 125-foot coil. See, it makes perfect sense to me. God help anyone else that had to put it away. Of course, in the warehouse, they're looking at a spool of cable, or in this case, a coil of cable, and none of what I just said is going to really show up in any particular form on that package. So it would be very easy to make a mistake there. So the different ways that people would look at this, okay, this makes sense to me and probably for the purchasing agent, and probably for the vendor. If this is a more generic type item, that description would make sense. Say, well, if Encore Wire was getting this order, the South Wire part number probably wouldn't make much sense to them. The South Wire part number would help out the guys in the receiving. If it was actually South Wire that was received, they would have half a chance of hell of being able to reconcile something, numbers on the package to what the pick ticket or put away information is going to look like. For the salespeople, keyword, in this case 62RX, would make sense. 62 Romex. There's additional keywords that we could type out Romex completely in the keyword field, and then that would bring up a short list of all the different sizes and types of Romex. So you have to be creative in thinking to yourself when you're creating a product and maintaining it, just how different people will see it and interact with it differently. And once again, consistency is the key. So best not to call it 62RX in one place and then 43 call it 43 Romex or 43 NMB. That will foul up the convention and make it harder for people to search. And now I think I will go on to my tour of things I hate that I see in product files all the time. Here's a common quirk. We've broken the naming convention here. So we said before, in this system, the standard notation is price line, part number, brief description. Here they've decided to put the part number at the very end, which breaks the convention. Is that a showstopper? No, but when you're running reports and having information in spreadsheets, etc., now you've made things uglier. So best to fix those when you find them. And here we see a more conventional rewrite of the description that might make a little bit more sense, or at least be more consistent. Here's a good idea for light bulbs, since so many of them are generic, putting in the NAED number. So for cross-referencing, always a good idea. So we like that. We don't see it nearly often enough. My least favorite common problem, here we have a fight product. Okay, no NAED number, but still, okay, not too bad. Better than nothing. We go to check the catalog number, and this says it's a 7/2018. And survey says, someone copied this product, didn't change the catalog number. Now, of course, if I go to try and match up things on a spreadsheet, things will get all fouled up. I hate this. And pretty much like every second or third record that's created seems to have that error to it. It's an easy mistake to make. Certainly Eclipse didn't put the catalog number entry field in the easiest to remember of spots. Anyway, easy enough fix, and now we don't trip across that issue again. And of course, keep in mind when you're working on a product, as with almost every screen in Eclipse, there's a maintenance log that will tell you who created what, when, why. It doesn't show you what the value currently is, but it'll show you what the value was before it got changed, in some cases anyway. And yeah, we can see who created it, copied it, and didn't change the catalog number. So lovely feature in Eclipse. It removes all doubt as to who did what. It makes the finger pointing and the I didn't do a thing go away for the most part. Here's a fun one. I'm not a lighting specialist, so I can't make any heads or tails of is the part number that, or is the part number this? And if so, well, God helps you. Now, in the search engine that's built into Eclipse, it sees these as separate words. So if this is the part number and someone went to type in all of this as one word, it wouldn't search it. It would go, I don't know what you're talking about. Here they put a keyword which concatenated, but starts with June for Juno. And in this case, if you didn't type in Juno and you just tried to type in that part number, it still wouldn't show up. So you solve this problem by bridging all the components of what we think the catalog number is with a dash. That will tell the engine that if I type in all of this with no spaces and dashes, or even if I do with dashes, that we'll be able to match it now. Simple little glitch. It's amazing how the smallest things are showstoppers. Another one of those hard to untangle. Is that the part number, or is this the part number? And what do we make out of this? Now, it's entirely possible in this case that this is a piece that this piece works with, or vice versa. And if that case, well, that's the worst possible way to create a compatibility relationship between those two items. Once again, what should have been done, if this is the case and I'm not sure, is there'd be hopefully two different records. There probably already are. And that the related item or the additional components would be put in here in the product relationship maintenance, and now everything would be nice and clean, and Eclipse is able to manage that much better for you instead of the people trying to decipher what the hell was meant by this. It should be mentioned one quirk. I mentioned earlier that if all of this makes up the catalog number, having spaces in between these, if you typed it in all as one string, it wouldn't match up. The reverse is true as well. If you did put bridge dashes to link all this as one word and they typed it as separate words, odds are it wouldn't match either. If you don't know which way someone's likely to type it in, assume they're going to try and type it in both ways. So you might want to leave the description unbridged, no dashes, but the catalog number bridged, and that way either which way they type it, either with dashes or not, it will more likely search correctly. Here's another of those, what the hell is it? Is it this catalog number, or is it this catalog number? Does this go with that? If I'm not a lighting expert, and let's assume I'm not, I don't know. So why add ambiguity when you don't have to? I'm sure this makes perfect sense for the person who created the record, but if anyone else goes to use it, good luck. Another ambiguous one is this the catalog number, or is this the catalog number? And the price line should start with AH, and it doesn't. Now how the hell do I untangle that? I guess I'd have to spend a while doing a Google search at AH lighting. Hopefully I can untangle which one of these is the right one. Was this meant as a shortcut, keyword, or who the hell knows? And here represents probably the most common thing that I see. Salesmen decided that they didn't have the extra 10 seconds to possibly write in any descriptive information. They copied the record, they changed the part number, they didn't explain what the hell the damn thing was, and I bet you anything if we go into the UPC, and they didn't change the catalog number either. This record is completely unmaintainable. No one will ever be able to make sense out of it again, and all it took was a few extra seconds on the front end to save hours of time on the back end as people keep tripping across this and ignoring it, tripping across it and ignoring it. Once again, looking at the log, I find that typically you always have the same culprits in the company that do the same thing, and no matter how often you talk to them, somehow it still keeps happening. Well, you know, there are things you can put in place to try and reduce some of that, but people will be people. Here's a representation of a good problem we had this morning, which was the purchasing agent decided to buy 1,000 feet of 4.3 Romex. All well and good. There was not a 1,000 foot record, so in order to save 3 seconds worth of time, the purchasing agent decided to purchase 1,000 feet of this, and it was received as 1,000 feet. Later on, when the warehouseman went to bin locate this, he couldn't figure it out. He had one 1,000 foot spool of Romex and could not find any of the two 500 foot spools of Romex that were actually supposed to be in the warehouse. Round and round, round and round. This was nonsense. Literally 4 seconds it would have taken to copy this record, make a 1,000 foot record, and do a purchasing on that. So in order to save 3 seconds on the front end, a half an hour was wasted on the back end trying to figure out what the heck the wire was received against, and then having to create the new record, move the quantities over, and correct it. This type of crazy is one of those things that'll definitely make you stick straw in your hair. And finally, for our tour of horrors of the wonderful world of product file damage, we have this one here. Okay, a record was created. Nearly no explanation of anything. Wonderful. Non-stock item. And we get through looking at this, and we take a look at this other record, 2830. Notice anything similar? Here's another hint. Product number 2830. Product number 2829. Someone created two of the same product with no explanations. Typically, if this goes on for a while, then you'll start to see a mix of, you might have the same warehouse with two different quantities of the same product in two different locations, or whatever horror story is in there. Duplicate records are the scourge of the product file. It makes everything a long-running nightmare, so you should be able to run reports and identify duplicates and process them as quickly as possible. Luckily, our friends at Epicor, or at least the original programmers of Eclipse, thought up a solution when something like this goes in and fouls things up, as to kind of patch it up pretty decently, and that is using a merge-purge process. Using this handy little tool here, you can specify what the keep product is, what the product you want to merge into is. It will prompt you, but allow you to move the transaction history and combine them. It can move the locations and the quantities and merge those together. And so it's the best possible way of unfucking an OFUC. And I guarantee you'll be using this a few times in your life. Anyway, that completes my perspective on product file maintenance, and if anyone else has any other ideas that they'd like to contribute, please send a message. There's always more to know, and I am certainly not the expert in all of this. Thank you for your time and attention, and happy eclipsing.